Namaste, welcome to the fourth module of this online certificate course. Now we will be dealing with three important subtopics here. So what is a valid requirement? Namaste. Now we are entering to the fourth module of this online certificate course on right information. In this module, we will be discussing three important topics. First, request under the Right Information Act, and disposal of request. This is the key role and responsibility of a public information officer. And finally, what are the various timelines? We will quickly start off with the uh, request under the right information. Section 6 provides what are the requirements for a valid request under the right information. The Act uses these words: request for obtaining information. We can say it's an application under the filed under the Right to Information Act for obtaining information, but the Act uses the word request. So there are some requirements to be met for a request to be valid under Section 6. So what are they? So it goes on like this. A person who desires any information under this Act shall make a request in writing. So this is the first condition. It should be in writing, or it can be through electronic means. So these are the first condition to be satisfied. It can be in writing, or it can be sent through electronic means. And second condition is about the language. It can be in English or Hindi or in the official language of the area in which the application is being made. So first condition is it should be in writing or through electronic means. Second condition, it should be in English or Hindi or in the official language of the area. And third condition is it should be accompanied by such fee as may be prescribed. So the Act, the rules, Right to Information Act, Right to Information Rules 2012, they prescribe a fee of 10 rupees to be accompanied by an application. So this is the third requirement. The fee may vary in states, but mostly it is uniform across all the central government public authorities, that is 10 rupees. So this is the third condition. The fourth condition, it should be addressed to the PAO, central PAO or the state PAO or APAO. So it should be addressed to the public information officer or the assistant public information officer. So the final condition is the application should specify the particulars of the information sought by the applicant. So these are the various conditions that need to be satisfied for a valid request. And yeah, subsection 2 says this: the applicant is not required to give any reason. So this is called purpose blindness. The applicant is not supposed to provide any reason for requesting the information. So, what is the logic behind this subsection? The Act, under the Right to Information Act, it is a right-based legislation which presumes openness of information. That means any requester, any citizen, if she wants to access certain information, public authority should provide the information. That is the default position under the Right to Information Act. So the applicant need not provide any reasons for seeking information except personal details such as address, which are necessary for contacting the applicant. So we presume that the applicant is expected to provide her name and postal address. Recently, in an interesting judgment, Kolkata High Court said even post bag or post box number is sufficient. The postal address is not required if the applicant is not ready to provide that. So we will go on. And next, we will discuss about the disposal of the request. So section 7.1 deals with the disposal of request. So this is the most important discussion as far as the public information officer is concerned. The role and responsibilities, the role of the public authority, main obligation of public authority or main obligation of the PAO is this: to dispose of a request. So there are two categories of disclosure under the right to information. One is proactive disclosure that we have already discussed under module 3, and now we are discussing reactive disclosure. Here the public authority doesn't proactively disclose the information, but the public authority reacts to any application filed by a citizen. So this can be called a reactive disclosure. So how do you dispose of the request? How can a PAO dispose of the request? So let us have a look at this section 7, which explains the process of disposal of request. Once the PAO receives an application, he or she has two options. So section 7.1 says, on receipt of a request under subsection under section 6, the PAO either provide the information. So this is the first option. The PAO has the first option to provide the information on payment of fee, or reject the request for any of the reasons specified in sections 8 and 9. So here the PAO is given two options to dispose of the request. First is either she has to provide information or she has to reject the request. Once you decide to provide information, you can provide information on payment of fee as prescribed. So the Right to Information Rules 2012 also prescribes certain fees to be collected, mostly 2 rupees per A4 size page and other categories of fees, which can be paid according to rules. But if the PAO chooses not to disclose, that means withholding. That means reject. She has to reject the request. But when PAO decides to reject the request, the PAO should have some reasons. So without reason, the PAO is not supposed to reject any request. So this is the default position taken by the Right to Information Act. That means the information belongs to citizens. If they want, they should be provided access. Unless there is a valid reason, the PAO is not supposed to withhold the information. So in this case, if the PAO doesn't want to disclose it, if the PAO wants to withhold information, there should be at least one reason. Then what are the reasons? You cannot say whatever reason you would like to, but there are reasons which are already specified under the Act. So we can refer to the last words of this para, which says the reasons specified in sections 8 and 9. So in sensitive cases, if the PAO wants to withhold, the PAO needs to withhold that information, she has to go to section 8 or 9 and refer to the various exemptions available there and quote the relevant exemption which is applicable in that particular case. So the reasons are also called exemptions under the Right to Information Act. We will discuss these exemptions separately. So the bottom line is, unless there is a reason, the PAO is not supposed to reject any request. And reason is already specified under section 8 and 9. These are also called exemptions, which will be discussed separately. So this is about disposal of request, and there is one more requirement here when the PAO is rejecting a request. So let us have a look at section 7.8. Yeah, we have section 7.8. So unless you complete discussion on section 7.8, you cannot complete the discussion on disposal of request. So there are two options we have already discussed. One is to provide information, another is to reject. So in case the PAO needs to reject a request and she has to issue a communication under section 7.8, this completes the disposal of request. But this is not simple, slightly complicated. What does the Act say? The Act says that the PAO, where a request has been rejected, the PAO shall communicate to the requester some information. So what is that communication? So the communication is a speaking order. Here, why should the PAO issue a speaking order? What is the requirement of a communication and what are the contents of the communication? So we have two questions to discuss. First question, what is the requirement of a speaking order or communication under section 7.8? If you go to section 19.5, it says the burden of proof is on the PAO. If she rejects a request, she has to substantiate before the commission that her rejection is according to the law. So this is called the burden of proof. It is on the PAO. So unless you convince the commission may not uphold your decision to reject a request. So this job can be done by the speaking order here because what are the reasons you are quoting for rejection of a request, under which provision you are actually rejecting a request. So all these should be provided to the requester in a written order. That is called communication. Here we can say it is a speaking order under the right to information. So what are the contents of the speaking order? Uh, the Act itself provides some contents here. So clause 1 says the reasons for rejection. The speaking order, the communication should provide the reasons for rejection. So here you have to write the reasons. You have to select certain reasons from section 8 or 9, and you have to write down those provisions under which you are actually rejecting the request. And class 3 deals with the appellate authority. So you can simply say that here, if you are not satisfied with my decision, you may prefer an appeal before the following first appellate authority under section 19(1) of the Right to Information Act. And what is the timeline? There is certain limitation here. So for a first appeal, 30 days. So you should say that uh, the appeal can be preferred within 30 days of the date of receipt of the order, 30 days from the date of receipt of the order. So this completes the speaking order. It needs some more discussion. We will try to discuss when we deal with the exemptions, how to write a speaking order and what are the contents of the speaking order. So the disposal includes two decisions. One, either providing information. In such case, the PA has to collect the further fee, and she can provide information. But if the PIO chooses not to disclose, there is a requirement, there is a sensitive issue, sensitive information. In such case, the PIO has to uh, issue a speaking order, section 708, detailing the reasons and detailing the requirement of timelines to be followed in case of appeal, and who is the appellate authority. The name and designation of the appellate authority should be provided here. So, and finally, we will have a look at timelines. So, we will have a look at these timelines under the Right to Information Act. So this chart provides various timelines to be followed. Most important and most strong, I think, the strongest feature of the Right to Information Act is timelines. Every authority under the RTI Act, Public Information Officer, First Appellate Authority, and they need to follow certain timelines, and all the responses should be provided within these timelines. So there are two charts. First chart shows you the normal timelines. That means if a citizen files a request, the PIO should provide information as expeditiously as possible, but it can be 30 days is the maximum timeline. And if it is third party related information, that can be extended up to 40 days. But if the application is submitted to the assistant PIO, assistant PIO is supposed to forward the application to the PIO within 5 days. So APIO has 5 days maximum, but APIO should immediately forthwith. The Act says the application should be forwarded forthwith. And there are some other timelines, narrow timelines for life or liberty related information. If the information concerns the life or liberty of a person, then the Act says that information should be provided within 48 hours. And second chart, flow chart, shows you other timelines. In case the PIO fails to provide information within the timelines, the first appeal under section 19(1) can be filed before the first appellate authority within 30 days. And the first appellate authority has to dispose of the appeal within 30 days, and appellate authority can extend this timeline to up to 45 days when there are valid reasons which should be recorded in the order. If the applicant is still not satisfied with the order issued by first appellate authority, or in case first appellate authority fails to dispose of the appeal, the appellant can prefer the second appeal under section 19(3) of the Right to Information Act before the Concerned Information Commission within 90 days. There is another remedy under section 18(1). Any applicant can directly approach by way of filing complaint under section 18(1). But it is the Commission's discretion whether to admit the appeal complaint directly under section 18(1). Sometimes Commission advises the complainant to exhaust the first appeal remedy, and only after that the uh, complainant is expected to approach the Information Commission. It depends. There are certain interesting judgments with regard to the difference between complaint and second appeal. But anyway, it is, we can say it is the discretion of Information Commission. whether to appeal a direct complaint under Section 18(1) or not. So with this, we'll be completing the discussion about the request for information, what are the requirements of a valid request, and how to dispose of any request. That is a most critical part of the role of the PIO and timelines. So next, the next module, module 5, we will be discussing about the information commissions and the various remedies, appeals, and complaints, and what are the powers of information commission. Thank you.